That was a good one. Welcome back to the Champions Playbook, where we're still joined by Hudson and Tevin. And I think we're going to take this one a little bit more off the cuff. So we were recording a little bit beforehand, before you guys are hearing what we're hearing right now, or what you're hearing right now. And I think we're just going to go into it. So this episode, we're talking about meal prep and what we should be putting in our bodies to perform the best. So we were talking a little bit off air about water. Everybody feels like you need to drink water a little bit more. Tev, what did you say about water and what we need to really be doing?
We're all certified scientists as well, so
Yeah.
our PhD degrees will be in the comments.
For the record, anything that's about to be said, consult your doctor as always.
Please.
But in our experience, and him as a chef and me as a performance coach, we have some things to say on the
all
topic.
of us on this board are athletes too, and I've played.
Correct.
I have played sports at a fairly high level as well.
Yep. But yeah, like I was saying, a certain percentage of our bodies is salt water. So we also want to cater to that as well. So getting proper sodium in. This is what I do, and I've done this for the past year, is just, Pedialyte, anything that's
Scott's feeling Tev's biceps.
anything that is low sugar but has, a good amount of electrolytes is going to be solid. You don't have to drink a whole bottle in a day. Just supplement it here and there on top of your food, making sure it's well salted. You're gonna be chilling.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I think there's a misconception that putting salt on your food's a bad thing.
No, not at all.
Salt's fantastic.
Fantastic.
Don't just flood your body with just a million gallons of water a day.
Well, here's the other
As
thing.
a part of that too, it is
Right.
good, but what he said, balance it out, because what our body is truly made out of, right? There's multiple aspects there.
Well, now the American diet too is oversalted. Right, so there's a difference between
McDonald's
properly
fries.
salted. Just because the American diet is overly salted doesn't mean that salt's a bad thing. In salt
Right.
in general, it's actually
Because
really
it's
good
in
for your
all
body.
the other processed type foods, and it's in poor cooking habits rather than you can dump just about as much table salt as you want on.
Also, type
On
of
your
salt.
food.
That's a big. I mean,
I was about to
we
say-
talk about this
so-
all the time in the kitchen, man.
There's so many different kinds of salts. There's just your regular table salt.
Yeah.
There's finishing salts. There's
I think
There's
we should
bath
I think
salts.
we should.
I mean-
get, those are great.
No, I do not recommend- don't do it.
No. Keep those. Get rid of iodine salt. Get out of here. We don't need that. I think we love having kosher salt around in the kitchen. Obviously, top anything off with too. Of course, you don't want that iodine salt.
What would y'all recommend as far as just a good household salt?
I think the kosher salt for sure, or that pink Himalayan. It's me. I don't know about Tev, but
That's coming from the mama's boy.
Those
the
two
pink
are,
Himalayan
those two are
salt.
solid. And then I have this at home is flaky salt. That's going to be best for finishing.
Yeah.
'Cause-
What's flaky salt?
so they
Oh wait, tell them how to make it. Yeah. But making it's really cool.
yeah, so it's I haven't remembered the process, but because it's the whole sheet of salt, and then they kind of just use a scalpel shovel to kind of make flakes. Yeah, I don't know the process. I'm not going to tell you how to do it because I have no idea.
I have no
What
idea.
I do is I
can
just
pretend, but I have no idea.
I'll put boiling water on the stove, put a bunch of salt in, and then as soon as everything is dissolved, put it in a cup and slosh it around, and then
Yeah.
when it dries, you can scrape off
Okay.
the flaky salt. At least that's how I do it.
Yeah, Amazon is going to be my go-to for that. So. But yeah, just flaky salt. It's nice because you get a crunch with it. It's texture. It's.
I've made it twice in my life. So
Yeah. Hey, kudos to you.
So what? Can I don't know what's happening right
can we start getting into the?
yeah, that's what I wanted to say. So, where I really want to go and bring these two guys in and Jack's opinions too is there. The theme for the winter for my winter project, and it's going to become, I think, a theme for us long term, is I want what's real, right? Are supplements important? Yes, they're meant to supplement, right? That's what the term supplement means, right? To add on to what's already there, to aid. It's not as a primary tool. You have vitamin water, electrolytes. Look into what electrolytes actually are. They're in food. Yeah. Look at Body Armor has done a brilliant job of manipulating you all with marketing, okay? Look at the covers, the labels that they have. They have They have fruits. They have kiwis, strawberries, bananas, all that sort of stuff on there. It's like they know what your brain craves, so they put that on there so that you'll buy it. It's like all that stuff can be found in normal food. I'm not saying don't ever have a body armor, don't ever have Gatorade, don't have vitamin water. Like, I have one out here because somebody's like, I want to get you something. I was like, just give me water. Like, let me get you something. I was like, okay, vitamin water.
Hey, no
That's fine.
free shout-outs. No
So-
free shout-outs. No free
I don't know.
shout-outs.
But like, yeah. Anywho, it's not a. But like, don't. So is learning how to put good foods in your body, and I love the way that Tev cooks and like seeing the stuff that he has. I also think it's good to make your food look good, like presentable. We eat with our eyes first, right? It's the first thing we see, eyes and nose. It's kind of fun standing out here on the driving range. Like, what are they cooking? It smells great. So I guess it's nose first, then eyes. But like 90% of the information that we take in as human beings is through our eyes. Like, make your food look good. It's like if you make a salad and it looks like boring, you're not going to eat the salad. Like,
But also, what does that mean too? Like, for example, like if you're going to eat a nice salad, and I'd love to have Tev and Hudson's opinion on this too, is like food looks good when there's a bunch of whole foods on the plate, right? So salad, you get the green from the leaves that you're using. You've got, maybe it's like a springtime salad, and you've got some fruits in there. Maybe you've got like a candied pecan and some cheese. Like it looks good too, but it looks good because there's a bunch of whole food on it too.
Right.
So talk about like when you're plating your food, when you're coming up with recipes, what goes into not just the flavors, but the colors too that you're planning.
Love this question. So I'm big on plating.
sit back and relax. Get yourself some popcorn because this is going to be a good one.
So I always start with the canvas. What are you going to put it on? Is it a bowl? Is it a plate? How's the sauce going to run?
Underrated. Going with the vessel first.
Right.
Yeah.
Underrated. Because if you're making, it's got to sit on something. If you're making, a soup, you can't put that on a plate. This is common sense, though. But so after the canvas, I'll go. Like I said, starch, protein, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, colors is a big thing with plating. You're gonna find most of your colors in raw fruits and vegetables. Which is salads is a great one too, because that's what I do. I leaves and then fruits and then nuts and then cheese or Parmesan cheese on top or whatever. That's how I'll layer my salads. But yeah, so plating is I like to think of this is going to be a little technical, but rule of thirds. Everything to the natural eye on a plate looks good if you plate things in odd numbers. I don't know what it is, how that works out, but
We don't do well with 4. It's like, now what do I do?
Or
Like, three's
two.
like
Two's not
August
enough.
or-
Two's never enough.
Two's not enough. But yeah, normally 3 of anything is going to be sufficient. But yeah, so rule of thirds, that's how I kind of divide or 5th, 3rd, 7th, if you're doing a big meal. But so that's how I'll do. And then just layering, that's really all it is just, you have a sauce. Okay, let's put that on there. The way you cut things also determines how you put it on a plate. If you just put a whole steak or a whole piece of chicken on a plate, it takes up a lot of room, if you're trying to make it look pretty. But, if you cut that a certain way, layer it, stack it, it's just so many things you can do with it.
Well, I also, too, want to talk about how that goes into the greater theme of our episode with meal prep, right?
Right.
I feel like the sentiment behind meal prep is it's super basic, it's super bland, it just hits my macros and that's it. You do meal prep as well for yourself and also customers, too. What goes into offering such a good variety of meals throughout the week?
So many of you know, we talked about this a couple years ago. If you've been a long-time listener to the podcast, like I put on 40 pounds trying to gain a lot of weight. I had lost a lot of weight in my previous job in 8 months, and I did it as a vegetarian. That's why I'm wearing a smaller shirt to make myself look close to Tev, right? Just, perception. But anywho, like during that time, like prepping for meals felt like daunting, and I just didn't know what to do. Like, how am I going to get all this food in? Or even if you're not trying to get a lot of food in, if you're trying to lose weight, it's the opposite side, right? It's like, it seems so daunting and so overwhelming. And like, where do you start other than just like calling Tev? And like, I've done the meal prep stuff when you've had like the HelloFresh and whatever other companies, but the food never looks nearly as good as you're like, oh, I paid for that. I paid that much for that. Like,
Right.
That's a really small piece of chicken.
Right,
Like,
right.
I thought it was supposed to be when you measure. It's like, well, I guess it is a kind of ounce, but it looks terrible.
Well, the other thing too for like bigger guys as well, like a lot of the meal prep and like if you go and just get like like a basic frozen meal from that's like claims to be healthy from the grocery store, it's like 300 calories, and I'm like, I need 4 of these.
Feel empty.
tonight. Yeah, I feel empty.
Empty a lot of
So
time.
I just love to pick your brain on like what you guys think about when you're meal prepping and how somebody at home might be able to make that task a little less daunting, or just hire you, Tev.
Yeah, one or the other works. But yeah, so for
The latter is preferred.
the latter's preferred. When it comes to protein, I normally think, I mean, I have pretty large hands, but around like the size of your palm and like the edges of your fingers, like that's about 6 ounces ish, which is a perfect serving of protein, whether it's salmon, chicken, that kind of stuff. So I'll normally start with my proteins like that, and then everything else you can really get creative with. Just make sure it's, you're cooking it. You don't use a lot of oil. And what else was I trying to say?
Well, that's super
Yeah,
underrated
that's-
because I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I got to put some oil in so this thing doesn't stick, and then they put like 6 ounces of olive oil in their pan, and you ended up like half deep frying it before you do it. Too.
Another thing too, and this was I was watching a bodybuilder's vlog. He will buy before prep. He will buy brand new nonstick pans, so he doesn't have to put as much oil in them. That is genius. So invest in good pans. Yeah, it's an investment because because honestly, the new pans out today, you don't even have to put anything in them. They are so well made on their nonstick side that it's like incredible.
If you don't mind me, like real quick, I think. Whoa, sorry, that was real loud. Real quick and real loud. I think there is a whole lot of intimidation factor involved in the meal prep side of things, and a time factor. But I think, which is ironic because you're actually saving so much time. You are saving a whole lot of time. Which let's be real too. Like that's our world these days. Is we are constantly running. We are constantly going. We have a million tasks to do that one day, which is why we go to the meal prep. But then we think about the meal prep and like, oh, well, that's going to take time too. It's so much energy. But also what's funny about that is like if we kind of dive into that, I think when we start eating this way and having this sort of plan behind it, this playbook behind our eating, is that we actually found we have a lot more energy now because we're doing things the right way. We're eating the right things. And obviously it's going to take some time to build up to that, right? Or like whether or not you're going to hire someone like Tev here or you're going to do it on your own, that still takes energy, right? But when you start to feel the effects of the meal prep and getting the right things in your body, I think a lot of these things start to make a lot more sense too, which I think is a big factor people don't think of. Like, I think they think about that first week being really hard.
Right.
Was working out, new golf coach, everything. That first week is going to be really hard. But once we get into it, it starts to make more sense to us, and we're able to actually buy in a little bit more. I think that's a big thing too.
Well, here's another thing that I'm thinking of because I love the idea of meal prepping. I love the idea of taking something out of the fridge, out of the freezer, heating it up. But here's the other thing too. For me, when I am like planning my meals for the week, I'm not meal prepping like everything on Sunday. I'm buying things that I can like quickly throw on the grill or throw something together in like 10 or 15 minutes. What would y'all's opinion be on how to keep something flavorful throughout the week? Let's say you're meal prepping on a Sunday and you're eating like your last dinner on Friday. Like, how do you make that dinner on Friday taste just as good as one of the dinners on Tuesday?
I would say if it's something that's heavy seasoning, saving that last, or if it's a marinade. Because sometimes that water, that oil content can kind of make the whatever you're heating up on that Friday. By that time it's sitting in that liquid, it's going to be soggy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say leaving that separate. So, like, you're just spices, vegetables on the grill, chicken, boom. And then with anything starch-wise, I'm trying to think. Everything starch-wise should be... Like if like it's sweet potato, for example, dice up your sweet potato, and then when you have time on that Friday, put it in the oven. I think sweet potatoes are like 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
Or even too, talking about like the macronutrients in a sweet potato, like the skin. I mean, you can just toss it in the microwave too.
Yeah.
Like and you can eat the whole thing. Like the whole thing is edible. Make sure you wash it first.
Of course.
What are some other some meal prep hacks that you think people at home who are listening might appreciate in their planning throughout the week?
I'd love to look at my menu right now because I have so many different options. But I would say stir fry noodles. Those are brilliant because if you can afford those carbs, let's say you're on the bulker side or you need a high substance meal.
Yeah.
Those they come in. I forget the brand, but they come in microwavable packs. And yeah, I'm gonna shout out Chef Mike. Microwave.
Chef Microwave.
But yeah, the stir fry noodles are great because they've got a good amount of protein. The carbs are on point. You throw them in the microwave for 90 seconds. Or you can just throw them in the pan too. You just cut the package open, throw them in the pan.
Now, is there a difference between stir fry noodles and like ramen noodles? For
Yeah,
people
so
listening.
The ramen will say ramen. The Hoikin noodles are going to be closer to like ramen's skinniness.
Mm-hmm.
And then udon noodles, I'm sure we're kind of familiar with those. That's going to be like like pho.
Yeah,
It's going to be like that thickness. So it's just whatever you prefer. It has the nutrients on the back, but.
Is there anyone that you'd recommend that has like a higher protein content than the other one?
I'll have to look at them. I know they make whole wheat ones. They'll make some out of like different, stuff to cut out carbs as well. But
So I can see where this podcast can get like really overwhelming. Like, so what do we do, right? Like it's, speaking from the athlete standpoint, like I'm going to share some towards the end of this, like for golfers in particular, my top 2 or 3 like things to do when you're on site.
Yeah, this is great.
Like, so I'm going to do that towards the end, but like one of my questions to Tev is like, how do we go from, oh my gosh, this seems like so overwhelming for me to be able to eat well to like, I got all this crappy food in my house, right? The excuse is always there's not enough time. There actually is time, but like I don't know how to describe that to somebody from a food standpoint. Like,
yeah,
I can tell people how there's time to swing a golf club because this is my area of expertise and I can do some fitness, but like what does that look like from a food standpoint? And like maybe they don't meal prep for the whole week, but like just day-to-day basic advice for people.
General stuff, yeah.
Or just lunches or just breakfast or whatever that is.
To
like
eat
zoom
well.
out. Yeah,
What do we like to eat well, to perform an activity or just perform day to day? Like I don't think that skipping, people do intermittent fasting, which is basically a form of not eating, but there's a ton of studies that support you need to eat in the morning to kick up your metabolism, get it moving. People actually kind of bulk eat and eat crappier foods when they don't, So there's lots of different ways to do it. What would be your recommendations?
Yeah, I would say the question I always ask people would be, would you rather save time or save money? Most people would say save money, So that's where buying whole foods, vegetables are always going to be cheaper than, eating out at any time. Over, most vegetable packets can get 4 to 6 meals, if you just buy them. But
exercise that Costco membership.
Right, exactly.
It's funny because it feels like in the history of it has been, well, it costs more money to make my own food.
Right.
And to make good food. And like it's a pervasive message. You hear it. I hear people talk about it. It just costs more money. You're saying it's not true, and I think you're right, but like, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So I always say, would you rather save money or save time? And most people would save money. But just the conscious effort of just looking at what you're eating, just looking at if it's got a nutrition label, just looking at it, just being conscious of it. I've noticed that will just put things in perspective. Like, oh wow, like I didn't think that had that much sugar in it, or I didn't think that had that much carbs in it. Yeah, that is like something that is just being proactive about, and that can go for everything. That's such a general And then I would say a lot of people don't, they neglect their proteins. I think if you're not on the vegetarian or vegan diet, protein is going to help you stay fuller longer. It's going to help you put on muscle if you're, looking to do that. It's just substance, it has so many benefits to keep you from, snacking and, all that other kind of stuff.
Hudson, I want you to weigh in on this too. What is something that you're seeing in your day-to-day that either parlays off of one of Tev's points or just something that's completely brand new to you?
No, I mean, I think it's kind of both. For me, it's been, and it's funny because it's kind of how I learned to cook, was just using a bunch of different flavors. And I think I learned to cook with like only being able to have a couple of different things around the house. So taking those 2 different things, but creating 10 different flavors out of them, you may think you're having the same meal every day, but you're Spices, exactly. Spices are 0 calories.
Spices are 0 calories.
Yeah. So I think that's a big, when you used the word hack earlier, I think people are probably going to be afraid to just buy chicken for the whole week, or just buy this for the whole week, or just buy 2 things for the whole. They want something different every single day, but I don't think people realize they can get multiple different flavors out of one protein or one vegetable, this and that. And I don't think people are really exercising that enough. So for me, it's just, and it's not, you don't have to create these flavors by yourself. You walk in the grocery store, they have, hey, this is Italian. This is this is that. Like, it's right in front of you. Do you want Mediterranean today? Do you want this today? Like, it's right in front of you, and you don't have to be that super creative. Like, I think that's what people get afraid of, is they have to be really creative to make it interesting every day, to make it tasteful every day, right? Like, that's not, you could literally have the same 3. You could have rice, chicken, and broccoli every day, and it would taste different 5 days a week.
So there's 2 things that I'm taking away from that. Number 1 is I love the way you said, like, play around with the medium that you're cooking on too. So like, I think a lot of people are just like, we'll just buy chicken breast and put it on a pan, right? Or maybe put it in the oven. Like, why not fire up the grill outside and use the char, use that flavor that you get from the fire on there as well? Or switch up, even if you're going to go with just chicken for the week, maybe switch up, instead of going breast this one week, you can go for like boneless, skinless chicken thighs. And then
100%.
You're still
it gives a
getting
different
chicken,
flavor, 100%.
totally different flavor. So I feel like some people, when they might get overwhelmed with what food prep actually is, but in reality, there's so many different ways to get so many different flavors out of the same ingredients.
Yeah, I mean, look at this, for example. I mean, go to a Mexican restaurant. It's 3 or 4 items and a million different things on the menu. They are so good at it. They are so good at it, it's not even funny.
Oh, yeah.
But that's exactly what we're talking about right now. It's literally like, you give yourself different flavors with the same protein, with the same this or that. Like, they do it all across the country, all across the world. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you can do it too. You don't have to be that scared. Again, like, I go back to the grocery store, like, the spices are right there labeled for you in the store. Go for it.
Are there a vegetable or a fruit or even a protein that people don't, like, aren't drawn to because either they A, don't know about it, or B, are like, ooh, I don't think I'd like that, whether that be like shrimp or whatever. Like, people just typically go for the big ones. Like, is there something that, like, you think's really good that people just don't know about because we just cook super simple, basic, all the same things all the time,
or don't know how to cook it?
I would say, for me, and I don't think it's actually that crazy, but I think to the normal person it would be, but like, as a chef, like, halibut fish is one of the most flavorful fishes out there. It's really not that expensive. Most places have it. And I think most people just kind of go for that American cod or whatever it is, and like, kind of actually leave a bad taste in your mouth when it comes to fish. Tilapia is great too. Don't get me wrong. There's something about halibut.
So it's like, nah.
There is something about halibut though. Like, I don't know, man. That's like my one little, when it comes to, I guess that's my fish protein. Because I mean, I think you could say duck, but like, let's be real, that's kind of difficult to work with.
Yeah, I would say shrimp for protein. Shrimp. That is going to be an extremely low-calorie, high-protein source if you're not allergic to shellfish. And then I love sweet potatoes. They're the most versatile thing. You can cube them up. You can just do a baked sweet potato. One of my favorites is I make a sweet potato mash, which is I just cook the potato in water and then drain it, add a little bit of coconut milk, and just blend it. And it's like mashed potatoes. And it's like, the volume is so high, but the calories are like down here.
Also, just put a little cinnamon and cayenne on a little sweet potato.
Right.
Ooh.
But
or sweet potato fries too.
Sweet potato
People
fries.
love sweet potato
Sweet potatoes are so. Run it back.
He just blew your mind with simplicity,
like,
dude.
my brain just went, wait a second.
Yep.
You just basically said you made mashed sweet potatoes.
Yep.
With 2 ingredients? Is that what you said?
With like
3
no
ingredients.
ingredients.
Are we counting salt?
No.
Okay. 2.
What?
Yeah. So yeah, you literally just, and I do this all the time. I use you might have to have a stick blender. That's what I use. The little blender at the end of the version.
Those don't cost but a few bucks.
Right. Yeah. You can. Mine
Great
is like
kitchen
$50.
tool, though. I think it's worth it.
But yeah, so I just boil it, cut it in cubes, boil it, strain it once it's fork tender, add the coconut milk, and then I just blend it, and it's like a puree consistency.
And if they don't have an immersion blender too, they could probably use a food processor too,
Easily.
Food processor,
or
perfect.
even just a regular blender, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he did say fork tender, which means you could literally
Poke it with a fork. Yeah.
just right in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. Sweet potatoes, they're a hack.
That's so.
Is there any? Is there
Again,
any other,
let's make this point of like it's not that complicated. Folks.
No.
We're scaring ourselves by as great as these shows are. We're scaring ourselves too by watching them because they're
True.
getting these 5
Yeah.
different crazy basket ingredients having to make this perfect meal. It's not like that in the real world every day. It's actually pretty simple to bring flavors together and have a.
But I think that, and I want y'all's take on this too. Like for me, when I'm watching specific food shows, like for example, I think one show that does an amazing job of like, hey, here's what you got to work with, make something, is Chopped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Hudson literally like mouthed it as I was saying it. But I think those types of shows are so fun because like there's nothing special about the ingredients that they're getting, but they have to make something out of it. And so I'm curious, just talking with you guys, what are some things that people would have around their kitchens or their pantries that might be like 2 to 3 ingredient dishes that they're just not thinking of at the end of the day? And again, spices, yeah.
Yeah. I love guys' grocery games too because they'll have
yeah.
challenges where you literally can only spend. You have $20 to spend, and and
Or the
that's
TikTok person where like, hey chef, can you turn my $10 gourmet?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what you're doing.
I think that's a better comparison.
Yeah.
To what we're talking, because like
Yeah,
let's be
yeah.
like the Chopped, like
Yeah.
they are kind of they're getting duck bread, like they're getting some.
Yeah, they're
crazy
getting some
stuff
high quality
sometimes.
stuff. Yeah.
So you said ingredients around the pantry that could be like versatile.
Like for example, like your sweet potato mash, like the 2 ingredients that nobody would think about making that, and it probably tastes so good. Like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
are some things that people, or some simple recipes that people just aren't considering in their day to day?
Like if you were to walk into, you have no idea what's in my pantry, like things you think would likely be in there.
Gotcha. That I could use. Okay. Let me think. If you can think of anything.
Dude, I got one real quick
Yeah,
for you,
go
real
ahead.
quick.
No,
like,
I'll
let's like, because we do this. Like, this is kind of, and I feel like a lot of people
Yeah.
have this laying around. But like, say we're having taco night, which is like, you're gonna probably have chicken laying around sometimes, whether it's frozen or it's not. I think
Or any protein.
any
Yeah.
protein.
Yeah.
Like maybe the one thing you have to go get is tortillas, but that's fine. But he makes this jalapeno crema sauce that is just, it creates the whole dish, and it's like sour cream. A lot of people have jalapenos laying around. I feel like I've been in a lot of kitchens.
I'll
that
give
have
you that. Yeah.
I'll give you that.
I'll
yeah,
give you that.
100%, especially this day and age with
Or it
our
could be any kind of pepper,
avocados and
too,
all that
yeah.
nonsense, right? But you do this, it's literally sour cream, mayonnaise, jalapeno, like that's it.
I
Mix
think
that
we all
stuff
get
together.
like, we get caught up by this like crema, like, oh, it's a
Well,
crema,
yeah, but also like I think people also
mayonnaise.
get caught up in the fact that it has to be
mayonnaise.
the protein that gives us all the flavor. It has to be
Right.
this, or like that's the beautiful thing about food too. It's not always the main star of the dish that's giving us the flavor, or whatever it is. Especially when we're talking about like, what's laying around the kitchen. I think people are going to look at like, I don't have chicken, I can't make anything. I don't have this, I can't make anything. But do you look at all the other stuff you might have that creates this really big flavor profile? Because we talk about it all the time, just seasoning in general is the most important. People are so scared to season stuff, so scared.
I think they also don't know how to as
yeah,
well.
It's a huge
Like another
aspect
thing
of
that
it.
I would suggest too is to eat out, but try a new restaurant.
That's fair.
Set it out a plan. This is what I do for menu development. I've tried to make it every Monday or once a week. Try a new restaurant, somewhere, whether it's a different cuisine, because you're not gonna know how to season something Mediterranean if you haven't been to a Mediterranean
100%.
restaurant.
Yeah.
So like
So
getting
smart.
ideas from different restaurants. You don't have to be a chef. You can be a home cook. Get ideas from different places. Take pictures of the menus. Like that is just stuff that I think about when developing. different
That's
flavors.
crazy too. Yeah, I never thought about that. I mean, go to your local restaurant, whatever that
Yeah.
is, and take a picture of the menu.
Which
Be-
is
be
funny
health-
because
be
we think
healthy
about
about
like
it.
taking our time off when we go to a restaurant, right?
Yeah,
we think
yeah,
about
yeah.
like,
Or like,
oh,
y-
this
you're-
is
you're
my
working
time to
for me
relax and
tonight.
not think about the food. But I can create my next 6 meals based off of what you got laying down right here. I'm good. I'm not going to spend this extra money this week.
And that is, I feel like, the biggest roadblock. I think number one is just like the execution factor. Like, how do I make this? But
Yeah.
the other thing is too is people are like, they get to the grocery store and they're like, I don't know what to make. I don't know what to get. I don't know what to do, like over there. But
That's fair.
if you go to the restaurant, take a picture of the menu. I mean, normally in the description, it'll tell you pretty much everything that's included in the.
There is also I want to point this out there. There is a recipe for everything.
Yeah,
It is
Google
not
is-
like they
Yeah.
tell you what to do. And I think people, they think they're not a cook if they don't do it their own way. No, if you know how to follow a recipe, I'm sorry, but like if you know how to follow a recipe and do it well and you come out with good food, like consider yourself a cook. Because guess what most of us do that when we first start working in a restaurant, what are we doing? Looking at a freaking recipe book. You know, most people that go into culinary school, what's the first thing I made? Something out of a recipe book. I didn't do anything on my own. That's not how that went for me. No, they told me, you look at this recipe and do it perfect, like make it perfect.
I will
and that's
say
how I got to learn how to cook.
That salad recipe that I was describing that you guys were like, oh yeah. that's a rip off of one of the pre-made Publix salads.
I love it.
Publix food, man. I
just learned how to make it. Like I was just like, you know what, I can do this better, but instead of fried chicken, I'm gonna use grilled chicken.
You know,
like, it's amazing.
Me and my brother were sitting here last week, literally sitting in the pub. We're like, what should we eat? Because it wasn't open that day. Obviously, I was sitting there, so I was like, what should we eat? Let's go to Chick-fil-A. My brother goes, nah, man, let's go to Publix. It's way better. We went to Publix.
So I guess where do I want to go with this? So from a food and performance standpoint, you were an athlete. Like you kind of already mentioned in the previous podcast a little bit about what you did to like eat good food and have that good food. I know I have a number of college players that listen to the podcast and coaches that listen to the podcast. Like,
of course,
maybe tying a little bit of like what to look for when you walk into the dining room, and also like what's quick and easy as a college student that you can do. I don't know what I'm asking, but I think you know what I'm asking.
Yeah. So we're speaking dining room. I mean, everyone's different. Everyone's dining room is different. Stuff that I would look for, definitely this. It sounds generic, but the salad options, I know are going to be a good bet because it's Whole Foods. But if you look at what proteins they have over here, I know my cafeteria had just a pile of grilled chicken. So sometimes I would take that grilled chicken, and they're clever because they separate the salad over here, where it's like the banished area, and then they have all the fried chicken, the pasta, all that stuff. But just grab a grilled chicken from here, grab the salad here. That's something that I would do. I really liked sandwiches. Sandwiches were nice because they served them on pretty thin pieces of bread. So if you are going to get your carbs in, most of those sandwiches that I would do would have tomatoes. They'd have chicken, they'd have lettuce, that kind of stuff.
You can also go out and get like 35 calorie a slice bread.
Yeah.
Too. I feel like that's a way to save carbs if you're really thinking about it.
Yeah, we were talking about in the cafeteria.
Yeah. In cafeteria. Sorry. Yeah. I went to go turn the AC off, but
just carry bread with you everywhere you go.
I do like.
I say that because I make a turkey sandwich almost every day, and that's just really.
I mean, to the sandwich point, as obviously with this being a golf podcast primarily, like how many times of our lives have we watched Tiger pull out that PB&J, on the seventh hole or whatever it is, and like. Also, how much do those guys eat? Like, that's another thing, too, is like and I think from that standpoint, and I may just completely give you into another topic here, but I think there's a whole mental side of that.
No, yeah.
And especially when it comes to golf, and I know it's been mean, and it's funny that we're talking about it when it comes to like our turn food or whatever it is, eating at the golf course is the mental side of it is like what is too much and what's not enough in order to keep my mental state kind of right there and in the highest performance possible.
Right. So
in terms of just like feeling full or like just having enough food in me, right? Like I think that's a big part of this too.
We were talking about that off air, and while Scott is formulating his soliloquy that he's about to go on,
so that was good, is what we're saying.
I will share this one quick story. Is that I was watching the tournament over at TVC Southwind over in Memphis, the FedEx St. Jude Open. Yeah. And I found it like just hilarious. And John Rahm is teeing off. And I think it's funny because John Rahm has a little bit of a dad bod about him.
For sure.
He's got like a little bit of a gut
on the weekend.
And so he hits this smashed drive down the middle of the fairway, and they're walking off the tee box, and his caddy pulls out this gallon bag of Chex Mix out of his bag, hands it to John.
Incredible.
And John is like holding this bag of Chex Mix like a football, like a baby, and just grabbing Chex Mix out of it and eating it all the way down the fairway. But we were talking about it off air as well, talking about like just what you need to do, because golf if you're playing a competitive round, you're probably playing anywhere from 2 to 4 rounds of competitive golf, 18 holes, 4 hours every single round. So
Easily, yeah.
I'm going to hand it off to Scott now and he'll give his 2 cents on what you need to do to stay fueled.
So on the golf course, especially for tournaments, right? Or it's not just tournament golf. Like people play other sports and they get nervous in the morning. So when you're nervous in the morning, generally speaking, you don't eat very well. So some people have no problem eating. Like they just don't have a problem eating early in the morning. I still tell everybody you got to get something. Yeah. So like at least get water. You can get water in, kind of get that stomach open up a little bit, and then try and eat something. Like you can get a half a banana. Like you can get something in there to get it going. Then by the time you get to the golf course, you get to your competition, go ahead and grab something else. It doesn't have to be a lot. But you got to get food in your body because you need those nutrients. You need fats, you need carbs. Your brain is running like crazy. It needs those carbs under all that stress to be able to process information and process well. So, and fats are great too. So fats, proteins, and carbs. And so for golf, if you can get food in the morning, oatmeal with peanut butter, eggs, something kind of heavy, doesn't even require a lot, but like get that going, get to the golf course. And then before you tee off on the first hole, like a small handful of nuts or something like that. Trail mix is fine. Chex Mix. But then
he said we're not sponsored by them.
That's right. But then once you get going, I recommend people eat roughly every 4 to 6 holes. They're like, it's just as much a learned habit as your pre-shot routine is before you hit shots. And so it requires a little bit of preparation ahead of time. If you're like, well, what do I eat? What do I care? It's like fats, proteins, carbs. This is going to sound crazy. It's not sponsored by Lunchables, but like you've got the idea of the Lunchables with, you've got some sort of, cheese and crackers with a meat, right? Like something that simple. You literally hit all 3, protein, fats, and carbs. And then I like to have, like, if you do that after the first 4 to 6, then at the turn you have something like fruit and nuts, and then from there.
I'm going to put Tevin on the spot here. After you've heard all of that from Scott, you mentioned in the first podcast how you like to take simple foods and elevate them. How are you going to elevate a day of a round of golf, of a competitive round?
I love that. Every 4 to 6 holes, just gourmet,
give me something,
whatever. But yeah, that's it's simple. It's
incredible.
Those 3 things.
It's so true.
All right.
Here we go, on the spot. I told you.
It's negative.
He's a soccer guy.
Normally you don't put your guests on the spot, but like I don't know, I'm feeling it today.
So, yeah, I mean, you listed a bunch of snacks, so it's hard because I don't have anything to. Like when you say nuts, I would do like a peanut crusted chicken or like a pecan crusted salmon. If you're able to take a meal with you, that's what I think with that.
What about like if you were to?
You could do that as a sandwich easily. Yeah. You could do that as a sandwich.
Or put some spices in some nuts.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a hack too. Shout out my grandma for this, but she would do this. She would take. This was a snack that we had as kids. She would take pretzels and toss them in Hidden Valley Ranch seasoning.
Yeah.
Incredible. Because Hidden Valley Ranch seasoning is 0 calories as opposed to the ranch, which is just filled with buttermilk.
Yeah.
And so that's another. Toss it in ranch, because ranch you can literally buy it by the shaker of just ranch seasoning, and I mean use it at your own will. I mean that's another good one. Yeah.
What about can you think off the top of your head about how to maybe elevate some oatmeal?
Yeah, adding fruits, honey, nuts is going to be another good one. If you're on a higher protein diet, adding instead of water, protein milk.
Ooh, yeah.
Very underrated.
That'll give it this is what I literally had this morning. Just maple brown sugar oats, steel cut oats, and then I put my coffee flavored protein shake.
Yeah.
In the oats.
What?
Boom.
That's great.
So simple.
Hud, can you think of anything too?
I mean, I'm with him on the No. Hear me out. What's funny is I've had a question in my head for like 5 minutes, like relaying on this.
What's the question?
That's all I've been thinking about. I was gonna go to where does this put you in a mental aspect, which is like golf is huge with that, right? Like, I think we can get this question of like what foods are correct for you mentally on the golf course. Like, how, again, it comes back to that kind of like, do we get too full? Are we still too hungry? Which I remember this whole, I don't know if y'all remember this thing about Tiger chewing gum was like that he didn't want to fill himself up, but that the mental process of chewing gum was that he didn't feel as hungry. And I think there's like tricks like that too that people don't think about as well, especially when it comes to actually performing, being on the golf course, being whatever it is that we're at, that we maybe haven't gotten to quite completely. But that's literally been running through my head the last 5 minutes.
So from the mental standpoint, one of my favorite quotes that I've heard is success happens at the intersection of preparation and opportunity. So every time you go play in a tournament, that's an opportunity.
Yeah.
But so many people walk in unprepared. They're not hydrated.
Yeah.
They don't have food in their body because they're too nervous. Well, I'm just too nervous to eat. I was like, so you're too nervous to try to put something in your body so that your body's fueled.
You think you're going to be able to hit a golf shot right now?
Right. Right. Good luck. So there was actually a study done on this in 2008 that looked at the effects of mild dehydration in golfers and their performance on the golf course. And so what they found was there was a distance loss of like 12%, which is a ton. You don't think of it as like a ton. Like, oh, 12% is not that much. Well, if you hit it 300 yards, I mean, that's what, 36 yards off. You're in the mid 260s.
Yeah.
And so that was one of them.
Yeah.
Your accuracy loss is 48%.
Wow.
Just in mild dehydration, which everybody wakes up in the morning at least at that.
Wow.
And the vast majority of Americans are walking around in mild dehydration. Like, that's just the way we live. Now, here's where it gets really crazy. So we have these rangefinders that we use to measure distance, which is fine, but we hit putts that don't have rangefinders, and we hit shots where we don't use it. The ability to perceive distance correctly falls by 118%.
Wow.
So, like, if you look at a 30-foot putt, right, we're all going to be a little off on judging that distance anyway. This is mild dehydration. This isn't like super dehydrated, which a lot of players play super dehydrated. And so, like, simply getting enough water in your body with some decent amount of food, like, this is a real study. And these were for players that were, I think the average handicap was a 3.5. These are good players.
Yeah.
So imagine... No, just a 3.5.
Average.
So you're shooting mid to low 70s.
Right.
And so, like, imagine what that's like for everybody else.
Yeah.
And so the ability to do that, you think, okay, I'm a little off on my normal, 30-foot putt. I'll be off, 3 feet on either side. Now you're 6 feet on either side. Welcome to a 3-putt.
Yeah.
Right? Or you've got, architects build visual tricks into the golf course to make it look like it's closer to you than it really is. It's like you got your rangefinder. Your brain doesn't just operate on a static number. It operates on the information that's coming into its eyes all the time.
Yeah, it's kind of like, that's so true because, I'm a golfer, right? So the amount of times I've sitting here and thought, like, oh, that's 145. Let me hit this pitching wedge, and boom, I'm 10 yards short. What is going on here?
Right.
Can't think of it. Oh, wait, I haven't had this. I haven't had that. I haven't had this throughout the whole around. I haven't had a single bite. It's amazing now when you put that into perspective.
Right. And coaches have foods for their players, but like their players aren't in a habit of eating. Like that would be one of my first requirements as a coach in college would be like when we show up, you're going to learn how to drink enough water throughout the day and you're going to learn how to eat throughout the round. Yeah. That's going to be like walking to you. Like, it's almost going to be automatic. You get to the third hole and you've pulled something out and you're starting to eat it. Like,
well, I guess
why would we not be prepared on the most basic thing, which is fueling our bodies?
It's
to do
essentially
anything. We
game
need fuel to go to
management,
work.
right?
We need fuel to be parents. We need fuel to do this. So like,
it falls right into literally game manage. Like we're managing our game. Like, right. Like how, because if we don't do that correctly, the point of what you made is that like, I don't have the ability at this point to 100% to make another correct decision on the golf course throughout the day if I'm not handling this part of my game. Well, this is obviously very, performance side of golf, and we're trying to make money here because the majority of us are going out, drinking beer and probably not doing what we're supposed to do when it comes to that on a daily basis. But when we're talking about high performance, like it's insane how much these factors, because I can tell you right now just difference between my good rounds and my bad, of like my really good rounds of where I was with my nutrition. I wasn't drinking, I wasn't doing this or whatever. It's just amazing how much more I was locked in mentally, and I think it kind of all ties back to that.
I'm curious too if you could compare golf to any other sport. I mean, you could compare it to tennis, you could compare it to baseball, like whatever. But like, I think honestly, when in the context that we're talking about here, talking about like a marathoner.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah. I thought, to be honest, I thought you were going to set that up to
5 or
baseball
6
because we're
hours.
baseball guys. But
No, yeah. But like honestly, a marathoner, right? Like if you're gonna be running 26 miles at the end of the day, right? Like how many of those little like gel packs do they go through like over the course of that marathon, right? It's like, why aren't we doing the same thing in golf, especially if you're walking your whole round too?
Yeah, that's a whole different side of it too.
So this is where I was going to go kind of off of his point was think about emotional control. What happens when we're hungry? Even if we don't physically feel it because we're nervous.
Hangry.
We're hangry, right? We do not have control over our emotions when we're hungry. Like, I laugh at the, like, being a Christian kind of growing up, and still am. Like, you look back at, they've gone through the Red Sea's been parted, and they've walked through, and they've been rescued from all this, and they've seen all these plagues and all this, and then they're out here like, have you brought us out here to die? Why? They're hungry. They haven't had food or water. Like, that's the most basic need, and they're like, we just saved you from the worst things that could ever happen in anybody's life, and here you are complaining about, like, we don't make good decisions without food and water.
100%.
We all know it. I've got a 4 and 6 year old at the house. We can tell when they're hungry, and
They
it
let
doesn't
you know.
take long. Like, I'll come in and we'll be swapping out, and Rebecca will be leaving. I'm going, when was the last time they ate? About 2 hours ago. Yep, time to eat. Like,
Yeah, they're losing their
time to
minds
eat.
over here.
Dude, it is bad. Like, especially in the morning, Daniel and Nora Grace. Woo, they are rough to deal
so
with.
funny.
Like, getting food in Nora Grace's body is the hardest thing to do, because if we don't, I mean, she's up in the morning, she's super sweet, and then you ask her to eat, and she's like,
That's like,
I'm screaming about eating.
it's so hilarious. Like, I just kind of realized, like, the times I've been the most angriest on the golf course is when I haven't had food in me. But then when I've been properly, nutrition and everything, I'm shooting, my best rounds.
Tev, what does that look like in soccer too? I think I saw a stat that said that a midfielder runs anywhere from like 7 to 10 miles like a game. What is that? And correct me if I'm wrong too, but like, what does that look like on the pitch when you guys are trying to fuel up before and after a game?
Yeah, so we would like pregame meals would consist of pretty dense foods. So whether that's pasta is like the main thing that we would have before games, because you want to eat enough before so you're not full while you're running, because that's the worst feeling in the world. But you don't want to. Maybe it's a top 3 worst feeling. But you don't want to eat too early to where you're hungry before the game, because then that's where you lose focus.
Yeah.
I read a thing too. It was 90% of your serotonin is produced in your gut.
Oh, whoa, yeah.
90%. So
I got a lot of mind blows.
yeah, no. But yeah, so we would eat lots of pastas. Salads. Another thing, we'd have a lot of Greek food, like orzo pasta, which is in between rice and pasta, so it's a little bit healthier. Chicken. We'd even have steak sometimes, just because that takes a long time to digest, so that keeps you full. But yeah, stuff like that. And then post game meals would be, depending on what city we're in, but it'd be pizza. That would be
Oh, really?
a little mood
Yeah.
lifter. After a loss, you can't be sad and eat pizza.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Like, let me say this too. Like, that's not it don't matter where you go. Like, where my brother was for college, they had pizza after every meal too.
yeah,
so that says something.
pizza's the way to do it. And then we'd have pizza and a protein shake. That would be, after some food after a game.
I was about to
There we go.
pizza protein.
But we're burning all that off, the next day at practice. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine. That's one thing that I couldn't do is play soccer at a high level. Like, and granted, I never tried, but Like I can't.
We will never know.
We'll never know.
what is that? The Tootsie Pop, like lick.
Oh yeah. How many licks does it get to? I just can't imagine running that much.
Yeah, it's kind of blinded by your focus in the game. So
Yeah,
if you were
fair
to say, hey, run 3 miles while looking through a deck of cards, but stay focused while you're running. But you won't think by the end. I guarantee you won't think, oh, I just ran 3 miles.
Yeah.
Focus on a deck of cards. So you're constantly shifting your focus. But when you're tired, you'll be like, yeah, I've ran a lot. Because we would wear trackers, during games.
Yeah.
And yeah, it would be close to, if you played all 90 minutes, it'd be close to 5-6 miles.
It's crazy. And what position did you play to?
Outside back on the left. So
Okay.
I was, left defense for those who don't know. Yeah. So yeah, outside back. So I'd be up and down that whole line.
I hate running with a passion, but I'll climb mountains.
Yeah. No.
Here's the other thing too. Like for us taller guys, I feel like is it harder technically because we have more impacts?
Harder on the joints.
Harder on the joints. Yeah.
That's
Yeah, but I can take like half the strides that the rest of y'all can take. 'cause
Right. Yeah.
You had the longer stride.
They're just not as quick.
Longer strides. Yeah.
It's kind of a bargaining agreement with the world,
Yeah, right. I know.
Sorry, you're not going to run fast.
They told me.
I have no idea where I want. Oh, I do want to kind of pull this all in.
Yeah, bring us home, Scott.
So, eat helps your mental, helps your physical. Your body needs fats, proteins, carbs. Like your brain needs that stuff to operate. Aside from the muscles, like the brain controls the rest of the body. If it doesn't have its nutrients, you're done. You need water. Got to have water. Have to have it. If you're somebody who's trying to lose weight, fantastic way to kind of curb your appetite a little bit. It's just to have water. You kind of fill that stomach a little bit. And then meats, proteins, carbs when you're playing every 4 to 6 holes. And then what I'd like to kind of finish it off with is, Tev, tell us what it is that you actually do with meal prep, how people can come and see you. Take as much time as you need. I don't care if you take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, what is it that you do? Why come see you instead of somewhere else? And
I'll add one thing on there too, like the intake process as well, because I feel like your different clients have different needs that influence the different meals that you're going to end up giving to them at the end of the day. So what does that look like too?
Yeah. So I will do a custom menu based on allergies and dietary needs. So if you're bulking, cutting, just trying to maintain, I'll have a separate menu, just for you for that week. And then I will change that menu every week because we all love variety and I can handle that. It's what I do best. So I'll change that menu every week. You'll get about 3 to 4 options to pick from. The best way to reach me and to get in contact would be either through my Instagram, my website, which is just Tev's Table. So I'll take all, inquiries from there. And then
why you and not these umpteen thousand other companies that are out there that are your big corporate, why shop local when you can shop global,
Right.
Like, yeah.
I'll give you some meals that you don't really see at, the HelloFresh, the Eat Wells, some of my stuff is based off my experience on cooking, which other restaurants and businesses don't have that experience that I have, whether that's just the way I grew up, the Caribbean side of it. I've got a lot of Caribbean stuff that's in there. So yeah, it's definitely just more variety. And I've noticed some of the meal prep services don't change their menus enough. So, people who order a lot of meals, that strictly rely on them, run through all those options in a month. And then, they haven't changed there. So someone like me, I can change, what you're eating every week. That just constant change. But.
Yeah, I think that's I think that you see this at scale in a lot of different companies. If you go for a larger company,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to be as tailored, right? But
Right.
if you go for something smaller,
It's personal.
And first of all, I think everybody should reach out to you first if you want like a good food that hits your macros every week. But what I have seen too is like there's a difference between like let's say the Hello Fresh and then there's a somewhat of a more local one called Clean Eats here. who does like a little bit more variety, and then I'll see your stuff, and I'm like, okay, that is like
Yeah,
the
because I look at them, I
variety.
watch them, I'm like, okay, let me make sure I'm not
Right,
copying them.
right.
Let me see I'm doing different.
But the other thing too that I think would be different is that yours is fresh.
Everything's made the day of,
everything
yeah.
is fresh, right? And so a lot of these meal prep services, like they'll say that like, hey, the ingredients are fresh that are shipped to your door. It's like, okay, fine, like yeah, you put that in air quotes right there. And then some of these,
you're 6-7 days.
exactly, it's 6-7 days old. And then the other thing too is a lot of these other meal prep services, they're just straight frozen. You pop them in Chef Mike,
Yep.
and then you heat them up, right? Like. But that's what I think that you bring to the table that's so different is you've got the variety, you've got the freshness, and you've got the day of.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So every Sunday, I'll prep certain stuff Sunday, and then deliveries on Monday. But everything's bought the day of. I cook it, so it's the freshest. As soon as you get it.
Dude, the other thing too, which I'm thinking of, is how sick is it to be like, hey, like my private chef made this for me. Like it's not. It's
kind of
not
just gonna say that. Like,
yeah.
Look who's delivering the meal to you. Bud.
Right. Like it's not
way
like
better than an Amazon box.
it's like, whoa, where'd you get this? Oh, I got this from HelloFresh. I got this from Clean Eats. Like, no, I
Yeah.
got this from Tevin. I'll leave out the curse word, Henry.
Yeah,
like,
it's,
that's
there's
sweet.
a there's
That's
a
so sweet.
not an entitlement, but it's it's kind of fun to say, hey, yeah, my private chef made this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're supporting somebody too who wants to do bigger things in food. Like that's so sick.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so the other thing that you do like private chef stuff. You have a party at your house, whatever. Like you'll come in and cook. Am I understanding that correct?
Yep.
And like I was asking Tev. I don't think he needs to say it on the podcast, but like I was kind of asking you about it. It's actually a lot more affordable than I thought it was going to be for the convenience factor, and it's going to be really stinking good.
Yep.
And it's at your house. Like it's comfortable. Like you don't have to worry about, so many people when they want to cook, it's like, I got to have all these people over. I got to have the house in perfect order. I got to make sure all the food's ready. And it's just like this whole stressful thing. And I don't think people just need to look at having a private chef as like, oh, that's just too expensive. That's not us, or it's too elitist or whatever. It's just not. Like if you're going to have a special event at your house, like, and food's always involved, like everybody there can pitch in, would be happy to pitch in $10, $20,
Yeah.
if that. And it would be a wonderful experience. So guess what? You can enjoy time at your place hosting people where you don't have to feel like you're having to be the host.
Yep.
And you can just be there and enjoy time with your people.
Have you ever gone into a private event and saw their kitchen for the first time, and you're like, yo, like I'm gonna enjoy this?
Oh yeah.
I haven't even been with any of them, but looking at his stuff.
There's the Brentwoods, the off Harding. Yeah, that's a big spot. But so what I've also ran into kitchens where I'm like, I want to get out of here.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
it's a box. It's so now I have people, clients send me a picture of their kitchen before I
Okay,
know what
cool,
I'm
cool.
getting into. But
Yeah.
there's some kitchens where I'm just like, man, I just don't want to leave. You've got the Wolf gas range, and you've got the vent hood that's the size of a roof,
Pot filler and
Yeah,
everything.
just
Like
pot
yeah.
filler, 2 dishwashers. It's incredible.
Butler's pantry.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Oh yeah. Right.
I love
another
that.
Wolf range.
I love that.
It's fun.
Cool. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Do you have anything else, Scott, before we go?
If you book anything with Tevin, whether that be meal prep, private chef, whatever, let him know you heard about it through the podcast, whether it be the last episode
Please.
or this one. And we'll need to do like an intro so that people know how to find him. Like
Yep.
that way, it's not just at the end of this podcast.
Yep,
You put
yep.
it in maybe in the middle and in early.
Yeah.
But where if you go and see him, you've listened this long on it. I'll throw in. I'm gonna throw in. No, I'll throw in my new practice notebook that's out because that fits with everything.
Oh, nice.
So
Sweet.
I'll throw that in. It's
Hey,
really
the next
awesome.
one should have a spot for food, like weekly food stuff.
Ooh, now you're adding. Now we're getting super.
Now we're getting
detailed.
performance based, baby.
Now we
Franklin
are-
Bridge Performance
our next
Institute.
level.
1 week of Tev's table.
1 week of Tev's table. So yeah, Tev, tell everybody where they can find you again.
Instagram.
This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, this has been great. Instagram, TikTok, website. Yeah, all Tev's table. I'm trying to think what else I'm on. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I'm on everything, whether it's my full name or whatever. I'm on every social media app. So
if you guys are listening to this on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast, everything, all of Tev's links are going to be in the show notes below, so you guys can take a look at it. Also, subtle plug for YouTube. We are on YouTube. It's the Champions Playbook, but the reason why I bring that up is because if you listen to our last episode, we had some of Tev's mac and cheese that he just whipped up for us in the kitchen beforehand, and it was to die for. So if you want to see how that looked and also click on all of his links below, go take a look at us on YouTube. So and you got the recipe as well. So we did include this, and we'll extend it for this episode as well because it's at the very end. So if you've listened to this far, you deserve it. In the show notes from the last episode, we included the recipe for Tev's mac and cheese. If you make it, take a picture of it and tag Tev and the Persimmon Pub. You can, first of all, Tev and Hudson are going to choose who it is, and they're going to do a potential chef special for you in the Persimmon Pub. So,
and you're gonna want that.
And you're going to want that.
You're gonna want
and
it.
as soon as you click on Tev's Instagram page, you're gonna go, "Yep, I need to do that for sure." So we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks to Strixon and Arcos for sponsoring this episode of the Champions Playbook. Hudson, Tev, thanks for coming, guys.
Appreciate you.
Really appreciate it. Yeah, this has been an awesome one. I think it's always fun when we get more than one guest on, too. I think we can just go banter back and forth, and we're actually going to include here at the end some of the, I guess I'll say, unreleased footage from before we started rolling. So I'm going to put it at the end. Yeah.
It was brilliant.
It was great. It was great little banter. So we'll make sure to include that at the end. Stay tuned for that. But from Scott, Jack, Tev, and Hudson inside the studio at Franklin Bridge, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.